Hello, and welcome to RedTeam Flex webinar. Today, we're going to be covering the integration between RedTeam Flex software and QuickBooks Online. Now, my name is Christina, and we also have implementation specialist Sarah with us, who will be assisting me in answering your questions. So please don't hesitate to put your questions down in the box, and we will be sure to get those answered for you today. So with that, I'd like to kind of set the stage of what we're going to be covering today. And part of that is we're going to touch on the benefits of having an integration, as well as we're going to walk through the setup of the integration, and then touch on a few transactions and how they flow over to the QuickBooks Online software. So again, my name's Christina, and we're going to go over to a resource document that once you determine you would like to have an integration, we provide this document that's a great resource tool even after you integrate, as it has some information on workflow and some troubleshooting. But let's touch on the benefits. Once you decide that you might want an integration, the benefits are that RedTeam Flex auto syncs your receivables, your accounts payable, your time, and with that, it eliminates that double entry, minimizing the errors with the double entry, and more efficient. So the benefits are huge when you determine you have an integration. Now, on this document, it walks through the integration process. So this first part is kind of what I just discussed and went over, basically the elimination of the duplicate entry. Now, once we have a contract, we have a huge welcome call wanting to ensure you know your team members. We get the implementation specialist to assist you in starting getting the documents and everything so that we can build the database, help you get everything set up where you're successful and it flows properly. One of the things that we have once we send this and you have the integration is that when we go into RedTeam Flex and we're doing the setup of the configuration, the accounts, the control accounts that we set up and connect to your general ledger accounts inside your QuickBooks are these accounts. We call them control accounts, and they need to have this type. So an income account, a revenue account has to be an income account. It can be listed as contract or revenue earned, but it still needs to be an income account. The detail type, we do recommend you have these names, but you can have it vary a little bit. But this is one of the most important pages as we get ready to schedule that integration call. The other piece that I wanted to mention is here on the mapping. When we talk about what flows over to QuickBooks Online, we choose to provide this great workflow for you to have a resource to go back to. Your customers, your facilities, divisions, should you choose to utilize those, your projects, your customer billing, and those will flow directly from RedTeam Flex into QuickBooks Online. The customer payments, once you have a owner bill that flows over to QuickBooks and you receive payment, that payment will be pulled back in, and part of the configuration will go through some of those settings. Your vendors and your invoices that you enter, your subcontractor bills, all of those would be entered through RedTeam Flex. Once they're committed, they will push over to the QuickBooks, and then when those subcontract bills are paid, those payments will flow back into QuickBooks, into RedTeam Flex. Your employees and your employee time and expenses, as you can see, they flow over to the QuickBooks as your job cost entries, and then your job costs that are entered, which is more of an import of your actual costs, say a standalone that you may enter into QuickBooks, they come in as an adjusting entry. They do not flow back to QuickBooks. So with that, we will kind of move over to the RedTeam Flex software now. Now, when we're creating your database, as you can see, we are at the dashboard. We will need now to connect to your QuickBooks Online. We choose the apps, and in this area, you will see the other softwares that we do connect to should you utilize, say, DocuSign. But when you come in, you'll see this QuickBooks Online, and for the purposes, we are already connected, so you can see that we're operational. It won't have the operational. It'll have a little black box here that says connect. When you choose that connect, after you connect, one of the things that also I need to let you know is that you do need to be an administrator in both QuickBooks Online and RedTeam Flex to work and set up that configuration and that connection. So working with one of our integration specialists, such as myself, you would need to be that person or have those rights. So we're now here in the configuration area, and the control accounts that were on that chart are inside this area. Now these will all be red, and as I mentioned, we're a demo area, so they're already connected, but we can change those at any time. So you would want to manually choose the accounts payable by choosing the arrow down and connecting to accounts payable, choosing save, and manually go down all the control accounts in order to connect those to your general ledger. Some clients do not choose to use the team player, and it's okay to leave that one red. Payment terms, now this one is all red again, like the control accounts would be, but you do not manually have to connect them with the blue pencil. They will automatically connect as you enter invoices within RedTeam, that when you choose RedTeam, the net 15 or the net 30, RedTeam will push that over to QuickBooks. This will turn blue and black, and then at that point, you know that it's connected. You will need to ensure that all your payment terms that you have in QuickBooks Online are also set up in RedTeam Flex. In doing so, they will automatically connect, and there won't be any issue. If you have a payment type that is brand new, you can add it on the fly by choosing this. But initially, with your implementation specialist, this is one of the things that you kind of walk through, and for an understanding of what kind of payment terms you have. Company divisions is the same way. You do not manually have to connect them. And as you can see, these are red. And this is how this would show in your payment terms in your control accounts until a transaction is created and pushed and connects it to your QuickBooks. Again, your QuickBooks Online will have to have any divisions that are set up inside RedTeam. Your credit cards is an area that you do have to manually connect. So any account, credit card, bank account, payment type that you're going to have with a credit card, you would want to set up here and then manually find it with the drop down of your general ledger accounts. At that point, it will be connected so that when you utilize that payment type inside RedTeam Flex on one of your expenses, your bills, at that point, it will flow over to that credit card in QuickBooks Online. Now, one of the things also to know is that if you have a Home Depot card or a Visa card that project managers have, and there's 4 project managers that have 4 different cards, those can be set up as, say, Joe 1 2 3 4, Christina 5 6 7 8, and then connect to that same account in the general ledger so that they flow to that one credit card inside your QuickBooks Online. The time and attendance codes we have for indirect expense. Now, one of the ones that we see sometimes is that our GCs do not pay for drive time. So you would need to set up an indirect time inside your QuickBooks Online as well as your RedTeam Flex, so that when they're entering those hours, that time will go to that code over in that general ledger over in RedTeam. Sorry, in QuickBooks Online. So it does flow over in that way. The last but not least are the preferences. Your preferences are just that, preferences. So one of the ones that we do recommend that you choose is may create vendor payments in committed status. When you have this checked, as you enter a vendor bill and it goes through the approval process within RedTeam Flex, it pushes over to QuickBooks. At some point, then you will want to pay that. When you pay that, we have a pull that pulls in that payment. And if this is not checked, it will come in as a draft payment. You would then manually have to commit that payment within RedTeam Flex in order for it to relieve your accounts payable reports, your other financial reports within RedTeam Flex. If you have this check mark, it will come in as committed, so it eliminates that manual process of having to go in and manually set that payment as committed. So this one we do definitely recommend, because we have seen where clients will come to us and say, my reports aren't looking right. And guess what? They didn't commit a payment. So for that, this is a kind of a default that really we do recommend. There are two other preferences that you can utilize, and that's appending project numbers to your vendor invoices so that it's on the vendor remittance. A lot of our clients will choose that possibly. And then sending employee time and expense and vendor invoices to QuickBooks as a bill. So those two are also options as you walk through the process with your implementation specialists. When you're going through that employee time and expense area, this is when you would probably make the decision whether you would utilize this. A few other things in this area, you can see that we have a few items that we track. So you can actually click on any of the blue hyperlinks to see who has been sent as far as project, as far as invoices. We also have this transaction log. On the transaction log, you do have the ability to see transactions that have moved over, and you can see that it has been posted successfully. You can see the invoice number, you can see what happened, the source ID, and the date. So some of them also have like a little file, and you can open it up and see exactly what that was as well. That being said, I meant to show you one more thing in there before I clicked out, but we have the way to sort with this funnel. Should you want to utilize this, you can choose a date range. You can also choose whether you want a posted or you want what's pending, or just look to see if you have any errors. But this is a good drill down area, and you can filter and hide this upper section so you have more room there. Are there any questions, Sarah, so far?
No, at the moment, I'm not seeing any questions, but guys, again, feel free to drop those in the Q&A. I'll either get them answered for you. I'll type you a response, or as Christina pauses here, we'll make sure we get those answered for the group.
So we'll leave this configuration area. One of the things to know is that you can come back in here after we initially connect you. And if you decide, as I mentioned, with the implementation specialist, you want to change something or add something, you can do so after the fact. So we're going to move into our RedTeam software, RedTeam Flex software. And this is our dashboard. And one of the things I had mentioned is that you can also go to your transactions here. The transactions here are where you would look for adjusting entries. And remember, I mentioned that if you had items that you entered inside, you needed to enter in a template and upload, this is where you would find those transactions. As I clicked on that, you would then be able to view, and I didn't get that. So let me close. Try that again. There we go. So you can see all your adjusting entries that may have come in, and they are your imported with that import tool for RedTeam, as you can see, as a source. So that typically it can be your labor. We see most of our clients utilizing that template to import their labor. But we're going to go to projects, and we're going to go through a couple of transactions here, and we're going to utilize the Falcons that I wanted to show you, where we have some accounts receivable billing. So we're going to start with accounts receivable. We have where when you create that owner pay application, that owner billing, at that point, you can see that it has the project number. It has the progress of each month billing, and you can see that it's numbered with the 1, 2, 3, 4 moving forward. And from there, you can see that from August, we have a billing that a payment was received. So you can see that September, October have not been paid yet because it hasn't pulled in that payment, and then the balance is 0 where these are not. If we wanted to move over to QuickBooks and go into our billing, we can look at, I just went there. And we will be able to see that we have the invoices here. So I'm going to sort by type, and you can see the invoices. You can see the ones that haven't been paid or overdue. And the invoice that we did look at for $85,000 is marked paid as a status. As well as going in, we can review that invoice and notice that we have the progress billing less the retainage and the payment amount of $85,241.70. So as you can see, once it happens and it's created within RedTeam Flex, it moves over to the QuickBooks. The payment is received. We pull in that payment. It also marks it paid here and provides all the information for the invoice. Now, if we come back to the projects, I'm going to go into an invoice that I think I'm going to choose the Magic Kingdom invoices. And we're going to go to this house, and we're just going to look at a couple of invoices that reflect. Actually, there's only one here. We're going to move over, and we're going to see that it is linked to QuickBooks. It was approved, and then it was executed. And just as a reminder, when you commit that invoice, it will move over to QuickBooks a year in advance. So it will say it's 5/3 of 2021 was the due date. It would go in as 5/3/2022 versus when it's then executed, it updates QuickBooks accounts payable to say that it's 5/3/2021 so that it shows now it's gone through the approval process and you can now pay that. Inside I'm going to move back to my Falcons project just so that you can see that in the budget area, you do have, and this is so good for your project managers, that you can see your estimate, your budget, you have your actuals. These are the invoices, your adjusting entries, labor possibly, that are coming in, you're entering them, you're committing them, and now they're showing up here for those project managers. Anything that is blue hyperlinked, you can click on. So if your project manager or you as the accountant wants to see what is inside this subcontractor line, you can see that there are 4 invoices and they are vendor invoices from this vendor and what makes it up. Additionally, you can see what's left that's open and what's at risk. And I like to explain the risk is like more of a forecast tool, because your forecasting is saying, hey, I may not need this full $10,000 or this full $11,000 because I'm almost done and I've only used $520,000 and I have this $1,500 that's hanging there. Maybe I need to adjust it down. So likewise, you may need to adjust it up. But this is where you would do that inside your risk column. One of the other things that I wanted to mention over here is that you have what's been completed and what's over under. This helps you understand where you are on that line item, and you have where you can add notes. You have a metadata log, which shows that it's empty. And anytime you have this view button, whether it's in the budget screen, your invoice screen, it will have reports that pertain to that area. So we are currently in the budget financial area. So we are going to be able to see what our actual costs are. The financial view is a great tool for this report. It shows, again, your budget, actuals, what's open, what's estimated, what's left to complete and completed, and then the variance. It provides you your over, under, and your working capital area, as well as any customer change orders and potential change orders that are being determined whether we're going to do. And then, of course, you have anything that's internal change orders here. So these reports, when you're in the invoices, will have accounts payable, and in receivables, you'll have your receivable report. One of the things that's great about this financial one is that you can create a snapshot. If you wanted to run this on a weekly basis, you can choose to do so. And then the next week, choose to do a second one. It will keep that snapshot. So you can export it. That would be into Excel. If you choose to print this report, it's in a PDF. So that's some of the good tools here that you have in each of these reports. And I believe at that point, we have covered the majority of the integration. Are there any additional questions, Sarah?
No, I'm not seeing any questions at this time.
Well, thank you very much. Again, my name's Christina. The integration is a great tool. Should you choose to want to integrate or add some additional thing or have questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. We would love to hear from you. We also have a lot of knowledge-based videos and articles. If you go to redteam.com, you will have that ability to find those. Thank you, and we appreciate you attending today.